Pardesi Beats.
Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome to another week of Pardesi Beats Unplugged. And this week we have with us Mr. Simon Carroll, as you can kind of see him in the background, or you'll see his shop right now until he enters the screen again. Oh, there he goes. And we have with us Tadwal, they're joining us there. And we have Patwan Singh and then myself, Kushwan Singh. And today we're going to do a little bit of a creative conversation about creative process and different aspects of our life, whether it's art we do. You literally can see Simran doing kind of his creative process right now, whether it's memeing in a sense, video games. So we're kind of take it all around that place and like kind of just expand like on how we kind of view the creative process for ourselves and just dive into like what kind of works for us. And I don't know, like, what do you guys think? I'll start with the one, like, what do you think creativity is?
Well, first of all, Simran's not being creative. He's just following directions that I wrote down on a sticky paper. He's just doing what I told him.
It's IKEA instructions, assembly instructions.
Yeah, but it's my way. Like I wrote it on a loose leaf. But
Okay, so
I mean, having said that, you guys can follow Simran. We'll plug his secondary Instagram later where he does his woodworking. And he does not take direction from anybody but himself. Sometimes his dad. Shout out to his dad. But so yeah, what's creativity? We kind of talked about this in our last episode. We took a week off, everybody who was missing us. We know you were missing us. We took a week off and we're back. And we were talking about the, process of behind the scenes in a studio and stuff. And then in that we were touching on creativity. So here's that creativity episode. What is creativity to me? Is that the question? Please reiterate.
Yes, sir. So like, what do you think like creativity is, or like, how do you kind of loosely define it, I suppose?
Creativity is the flow of sort of these, I guess you can say, thoughts and processes in your brain, which allow you to sort of manifest something before it actually exists in your head, in your brain, and then sort of know the process to sort of create it and make it something that's tangible, that is tangible by one of the senses of a human being, if that's the easiest way to put it, whether it's audio, visual, whatever, right? Taste, yeah. Some people cook, some people bake, things like that, right? So to me, that's what creativity is. It's sort of getting in the zone and letting yourself free and at the same time zoning into something. It's a very complicated thing to put into words, but those that know it. It just comes when it wants to sort of, and we'll go into that later. That's at least my end. But yeah, what about you?
I don't know. I'm just wondering, does anyone have like a differing response to that, or like it has something to add on?
Here's Simran.
Yeah, we'll get Simran jumping in, then I'll jump in after.
I'll say, I don't know if you guys can hear me all right, but I'll say that for me, the creativity is something that everyone has, but enjoy that audio. Something that everyone has, but not everyone has been able to exercise over the course of their lives. And, I always hear some people say, I'm not a creative person, or, I could never visualize that in my head. And that just means like your creative endeavors manifest themselves in ways other than something tangible, something physical. For me, it's very, very physical. I need to get my hands on things to actually manipulate them from the very, very clear image of them that I have in my mind. For some people, it's far more abstract. It's more like you're allowing things to take shape as you go, and you don't have any set idea of how things are going to be when you first start. It's creativity is a very, very fluid thing. It's also very fickle. It can leave you at times. I know certainly when I'm stressed, I can't be creative at all. I can't visualize things in space and stuff like that. It's one of the first things I lose when my mental health starts to decline. And that's how I know where I'm having trouble with things. on a personal level is when I can't do the things that I want to do out here. Malik, I'll toss it over to you.
I think you touched on a really important point of like it can be tangible but also intangible, because creativity for everybody is going to be different. And we'll get into why I think I don't really have a creative process, is because everything I create is generally not, it's very spontaneous. It's not like I'm going to plan out to make this table and this is my blueprint. It's more like, oh, okay, I'm getting this into this zone, into this wave. It comes and goes, but it's kind of more an intangible thing. So my creativity is a little bit different in that it's more intangible and more abstract. So that's kind of why I struggle with defining what creativity is for me.
Unless you slap a large, extra large coffee in front of Moloch, then you'll see it happen.
Yeah, a few of those might help. But even then, it's like, and we'll talk about it. It's like, what is that trigger for us? Everybody has that different trigger of creativity that either always gets their juices flowing, or is something that they know if they need to get into the zone, it's something that they can do to help them kickstart that creative process.
Yeah, that's interesting, because like, so the way I kind of like view it is, it's like you're doing creativity is like something that like fulfills you like in a passion or a hobby, like where you feel that you're kind of not, it can like you're expressing yourself really, right? It's very parallel to art in a sense, but it's kind of like your envisionment of whatever you're working on, right? So like the creative process is like something like we'll go into, but like creativity in general, I really just feel like, okay, I want to put on cream cheese on my roti or something today, right? Like something like that, just where like something you want to try differently, or just explore different means, like, or avenues of things. Like to me, that's kind of creativity and just going outside the little norm or whatever it is. So I guess I'll transition this to how maybe like not like necessarily like a whole life story, but like kind of like your guys' personal flow of where you think maybe your creativity kind of has like started, like where you feel like you've been the most creative and like where it's kind of gone throughout your
first,
your
what about you?
experience. With me?
Yeah.
Sure, I can share my like I guess like how I feel it's affected me or how I feel I'm creative, but like I felt like I kind of started in high school with like doing like video editing, shooting videos, kind of like I guess it would be called directing in like in the proper term. Also like playing around with Photoshop, doing printing shirts off, cutting out the designs, like using my hands to do that stuff, right? Not even just always on the computer. So those things were cool because like, you know, you have like there's like a lot of, nowadays it's the word's called meme, but back when I was in high school that wasn't really the word. It was just whatever you really enjoyed that you thought was like, oh, funny or stupid, right? So like I made a shirt that said "Parent Police," like that's what I made for me and all my friends, and we would wear it around. But that was like fun, right? Like it's something that I really enjoyed, that it could be personable as well. And then that kind of transitioned to also doing like I'd like to make a lot of videos, like just using Snapchat, or I even had a Vine going before that shut down. Rest in peace, Vine. You were the best. Like creating videos for example is something that I feel like is a super creative process, because, or part of my creative process, because like I enjoy comedy, right? Like I enjoy a lot of content online, the whole YouTube world, before it kind of got a little bit stagnant and weird and YouTube got like all money, all like corporate or whatever. So like there's those kind of things, even just do like a quick Photoshop of just really having fun. Like those were the things like that I felt the most creative, like photoshopping friends. And I can't really go into like with the types of photoshops, but like just funny stuff that you could share with your friends or whatever. So that for me like has kind of been my creative process, where I feel like the most creative. Also, that's like in a physical, like, okay, tangible, like you can feel it and map it out, or have put something in the mind to kind of in front of you. But like also video games have been like, I've been video gaming for most of my life, right? So like that's also a kind of like not necessarily you're not necessarily creating something, but with different like video games, people play them like quite differently, like the same game, right? So like on the first level of Donkey Kong Country or something, like one guy might just run all the way to the end, whereas somebody else can like, oh, jump up on the trees, find out that there's a hidden secret somewhere in the map. You know what I mean? So there's like trying different things even in that realm is like kind of trying different strategies and stuff. Like to me, that's part of the creative process too. So yeah, that's a little bit of like how I kind of feel like my creativity has kind of flowed through my everyday life. It's like I feel like it's very separate from like the work area, because like that's not where I don't really have my work doesn't tie with that. So it's always been kind of like different endeavors that I've done like on this side. So yeah, I mean, I don't know who wants to share next, but that's mine.
I think a common theme I'm hearing is there's a lack of stress, or more so a feeling of being relaxed or like kind of just chilled, you know? And I think that sort of sparks it for a lot of us. I'll jump in here. I'll tell you when I can't, like a lot of you're saying, you know, sometimes you're saying I can't get into it when I'm in this mood or whatever. For me, it's like when I have any responsibility that I know I got to do something, or I have to a series of tasks I got to get done or something like that, then I can't get creative, because then I get into like work mode, and that work mode is completely task oriented, and so therefore my creativity doesn't even allow itself to come out. For my creativity, and I'll go into different examples, kind of like in our last episode we were talking about, but for me it's kind of like I need to be just chilled out, relaxed, just sitting there without anybody talking to me. I kind of need to be in my own space. Nobody's talking to me. Nobody's messaging me. My phone's kind of further away from me. I'm not looking at my phone. It's on silent, and things like that. And then kind of like I can be in my own head, or I can listen to something that I'm feeling. Like I'm talking more music based here. I can listen to something I'm feeling, or if it's more like video stuff, then I'm watching stuff that I like things that I enjoy watching. And then maybe I'll see like, oh, maybe I can do this or that. And more so with music, I just got to listen to stuff I like, and then sort of see what tools I have and what can I make and what I'm feeling at that moment. And then I just let it go and just vibe and just let go and just let sort of the energy that I'm feeling take over. And then that's where my creativity comes out, for music specifically. So
And I'm gonna jump in here. One thing, like for me, and I think like we've talked about, the common theme is if there's stress or if there's responsibilities or if there's things that need to be done, it's hard for us to begin that creative process, whatever form it is. For me, recently, what I've started doing is creating that atmosphere for myself. So a lot of the stuff I do now involves like mood lighting. So I'll set the room by music instruments and create that area or that zone in hopes to trigger that creativity in whatever form it shows up. So for me, I think it is also similar. It's like if there's stuff that needs to be done, creativity is often forced. So if I'm able to kind of help it along the way, especially recently, I've been using a lot of mood lighting and setting the tone like that. I find it a little bit more helpful to get the juices flowing.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, because like similar to kind of what you guys are just saying, I've felt that I've had to like be in that zone, and when you feel like there's interruptions, like you can't really get into it. Like I kind of relate to that, but I've also felt like when I'm in that zone, like I am like boom, laser focused, look at the clock, all of a sudden it's like 10 hours later. So that's pretty interesting.
I think you have some pretty interesting ideas on how creativity affects you. I think for me, it's almost the exact opposite to you guys. Is that when I'm at a baseline, as in like not excessively stressed or depressed or anything like that, or anxious, my baseline is a certain degree of creativity that I can't turn off. And so I have to watch myself to make sure that doesn't run rampant to the point where I won't eat, I won't sleep for like maybe a couple of days, because I'm like obsessed about this singular idea that I need to take to the nth degree. It's not uncommon for me to like accidentally go on Pinterest and then be awake till like 3 or 4 in the morning. And so like there's like apps I cannot use past like 6 p.m. Like I know that like it is dangerous for me. And then like the interesting thing is that my creativity starts and ends like within my own head. So I can build something completely A to Z in my head to the point where it's not a challenge anymore. And then when I start building it, I'll actually get bored. Where I'm just like, okay, this is in my head, it's already done. And I'm like, I'm done with this idea. I'm tired of it already. Where I need to like, I just drop it and I need to like, I feel like I need to move on almost. And that's what ends up leading to like projects scattered across the garage. I got stuff over there. I got stuff under here. I got a big box of stuff right here that needs to get done. These are like a client's paid projects, like or a project for a client that has paid me to finish. And so I am like pulling my teeth out, trying to stay focused on this. But mentally, I've checked out of this like 3 weeks ago. It'll still end up like great, and I'll put that same level of work and focus into it. But my design, like I've in my head, I've already moved on to like at least 4 other things that I want to do around the house at minimum, and I've ordered those lists. It's messed up. It's really messed up.
So you just kind of find it hard to like stay committed or find inspiration in like something that you're already continuing like, to find inspiration in what you're working on.
Yeah. So it's just like it's like the next thing that like triggers my interest.
I can relate to you, man. Everybody here knows how many things I have that nobody's heard. A lot of you have heard. And so I'll just leave it at that without.
Yeah, you leave. Yeah, you there. I bet there's like a whole hard drive full of stuff.
Oh my goodness.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That you were like, yeah, I'm down for this that evening, and then you just never visit again because you're just like, okay, I'm done with that. And then for me, it's like, okay, I'll get to those eventually, or those are goals I want to do, or whatever. And then there's always like there's always life things. There's always
life things.
That. Like there's always the day job that gets in the way, right?
Yeah.
Like things like that. And you try to find time for things. Like I'm trying to find time for this right now in the middle of the garage, which is crazy itself. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, what triggers your happiness? What tickles your fancy? Go with that, or at least spend time doing that. So I don't know. It's been like probably like 4 years since I've like sat down more than a single day, like 2 days in a row and watched TV or like binge something where like,
yeah, that's pretty
I
crazy.
spend all of my spare time in here. Like I wake up and then that's part of the process too, is I guess maybe we'll get to that, is like, what's maybe your creative process is like, how do you guys find the time, find the mental capacity? What do you do to organize yourselves, both mentally, spiritually, and physically, in a space to help you be more creative? I know Malik touched on it already. He sets up his own, musical space with mood lighting and things like that. And that's also a very big component for me, is that when I'm working, I have task lighting, and if I need to stay in that same space and also relax, I switch to a different set of lights so that I can at least visually differentiate the space from just with lighting alone, even if I can't leave the space itself. That was big for COVID, and that was big when I was out of town, in a little apartment for school as well.
Yeah. So like, yeah, like the fact that you just said like, okay, 4 years you haven't been able to within the last 4 years, you haven't had like a chill more than like one consecutive day of chilling or whatever. It's like it's been always you kind of like grinding in the shop or whatever. Like I find that really fascinating to hear, because like I definitely have like a complete opposite style, right? Like I wouldn't say like creatively anything has pulled me in like that I have to like kind of force and get into it. Like it's like you're kind of like almost describing it like an obsession, really, right? And that's pretty interesting, because I haven't heard too many folks be like, okay, like it's so, I'm like craving it so much, or it affects me so much where I have to kind of like get it out because it's whatever like the triggers are for you, right? Like that's
I think part of it is the fact that my parents get so irritated with the fact that I like completely occupy the space like 90% of the year, or they can't even get their cars parked in here. So it's just like, okay, get your stuff done and clean the garage so we can actually use it for garage things. And so there's that pressure. There's the pressure of maybe a client or something like that, or just like the nagging of like, hey, things never being completed or something like that.
Yeah.
And then there's also the pressure of like my own internally is just like, I want to see what this thing looks like when it's done. And it's like an internal competitiveness, I suppose. But yeah, because you want to see something to completion or whatever. And then as I age, there's like an awareness as well with how I know myself, or how I've come to know myself, and how long I have in my own like attention span, like a goldfish. Like a goldfish knows that it's got 15 minutes. Get this thing done in 15 minutes or you're done, right? And I'm like the same way. So if I maybe have like tops like 2 weeks to push through something and finish it, otherwise it's done.
Yeah,
like
so
it's gone to the wind. It's gone to the
What part
pile
of that is
scrap.
like tasks versus creativity? You know what I mean? So
yeah.
then that's the thing. Like, so like when you're creating anything, any sort of art, I'm just going to jump in and then give it back to you. It's kind of like you get creative, but then you sort of have to make a task list. So So how do you stay out of the taskiness of your things that you need to do and then stay like creative? So that's sort of like, I think, something that I also kind of, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to make this, but then it's like, hey, I got to do this, and this. And then it'll happen.
The same thing for me is just like, okay, like part of it is like stopping the design process, leaving it.
Yeah.
And being like, I can't completely design this to the nth degree. I can't figure out what the exact dimensions, measurements, scale drawings. I can't do that. Because if I do that, then this thing is dead on entry. As soon as I buy the wood, it's going to sit there in my shop. I need to have a little bit of creative mystery where there are challenges in its construction that I need to discover and overcome as I'm building it. Whether that be tooling, whether that be like fixtures, jigs, the engineering of itself. Like half the time I'm building stuff that like might even like fall apart under its own weight, like these things. It's terrifying. So I gotta figure out a way to like make sure they hold together, right? Yeah. And so all those challenges create newer and newer creative problems for me to solve, which keep me engaged. At the same time, they also create like an anxiety that stops me from moving on. And so if I put a GoPro in my shop, you'd see me do a task for 15 minutes, and then you'd see me pace the shop for like 2.5 hours, trying to overcome, like just talk myself into and out of like distraction and like pushing myself to the next thing to do the next thing. So it's like I'm literally fighting with myself as much as I'm fighting with whatever I'm building. And then the other part of your question was like the creative, like task orientedness, like whether it's just like, you know, you're like blocking things off on a checklist versus what's that creative process for you. And
well, it's kind of like art versus task in a way.
Yeah. It's like, and that's
when does it become you're almost like working to get the check off the list rather than feeling still that creative juice is flowing. That's kind of what he's saying.
Man, that's it. It's just like so there's certain things that I know feel more like a task to me, and that's part of experience in what I'm doing. One thing is sanding. I hate it. I hate sanding. It's dirty. It's noisy. It's uncomfortable. You're in one position for a very long time. Your arms hurt. If you're doing it with if you're just hand sanding, your fingers hurt, your wrists hurt, your shoulders hurt because you're putting your entire body into this repetitive, uncomfortable position over and over again. And then if you get a scratch somewhere, you're back to ground zero. So standing and finishing for me are two of those things that I really fight. And so, especially when it's my own projects, I choose finishes that involve less labor. I choose processes that involve less finish time at the end. So it's like a lot of it's like hand planing things, or choosing woods that maybe don't need to be sanded to such high extent, or incorporating aspects of the design. So on the creative side, incorporating aspects of the design that don't require or are executed with a rougher finish, but that's done deliberately. So occasionally that becomes a rabbit hole in itself. The last project I did was a series of kitchen islands that were nested together, and they were mobile. One of them was on wheels. And
Yo, where can we see these? I want to see this.
you can hit up my Instagram. It's Horned Feather DW at Horned Feather DW. So check that out. You can also hit up my personal Instagrams, Leon the Professional. 2 F's and 2 S's. I misspelled that deliberately.
And the L at the beginning. Just
it's Leon, not Eon. So that hit those up. I'm not the best at posting things regularly, but check those out if you guys like. But I made these kitchen islands, and I thought, hey, it'll be an easy way for me to finish them if I just take a blowtorch to these, and then I can just oil them, and it won't be that big of a deal. That turned into like a 2-week process of me hand finishing, rubbing out this oil finish on this charred surface, and having to buy a $120 blowtorch and like do all this stuff. The finish was beautiful at the end. It was quite literally like, it looked like black gold. Like it was absolutely stunning, but it was also the greatest shoulder workout I've probably ever had. Like
I think I'm gonna jump in here.
I went up a suit size over 2 weeks.
But the cool thing about that is you've talked about like knowing your creative limit. So when you're finishing something, you pick tasks that are easier. But I think also creativity is triggered by novel things. So if we keep that novel aspect of it, or also the reward aspect, although you thought blowtorching that island was going to be an easy process, it turned out to be a very long process, a very tiring process, but the payoff was amazing. So all of that work was not for nothing.
Yeah, it was amazing. Some part of me, some asshole part of me knew it was going to be a complete like pain in the butt to do that, but it just kept whispering, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine, Simran. Go ahead, do it. Do it. Buy that blowtorch. It'll be good. It'll be good for you.
But like from the sounds of it, it's like you kind of actually have spent a lot of time figuring out what works for you, right? And like that's how you've been able to kind of like be like, okay, I know I'm gonna have to make these adjustments, and be like, okay, no, I'm gonna work in this way where let's try to maybe offer this and this, like, rougher finishing, for example, right? So like definitely. I think you've done like a good bit of really knowing like what kind of you want, which is good. Like a lot of people don't get there, but even with like the whole process for yourself, you're kind of talking about, you like that there's like different things that come up, right? And then also you have like the structure a bit, but then when things change, like, and even if like they're a pain in your ass, like that also sustains you in the same time. Because even for myself, like I'm working an admin job right now. Oh my God, it's like one of the most boringest things in the world, right? You look at the documents, you plug them in. But when recently I've been getting trained on different things, and that hadn't happened for like 4 months. So then like now all of a sudden I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. Learning new things. Oh, like, hey, this is a new problem. Like, how do I figure this out, right? Oh, okay, I can do this, or this, right? So like I feel like that part of the process of like going through whatever it is, learning or interacting or putting something through is pretty fulfilling, because there's always that challenge. And then when you face that challenge, or like in like your eyes like beat it or whatever, and like successfully for whatever your standards are, like that's quite a rewarding experience.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like for me, it was like just the idea that like I'm doing something, and that's the thing. Every time I design something, it's like, no, I've done that already, and if I've done that already, it's not worth doing again.
Yeah.
And so people ask me for like the worst one is like dining tables. I love building dining tables. Don't get me wrong. They're one of the most profitable things, or I can't say profitable, but I will say one of the most. Yeah, it's the thing that I get most frequently asked to build, and the ones that I've kind of gotten down to a science now. Right. The issue with that is exactly that. Is that I have them down to a science now. Like how many different ways can I make a top, and like especially ones that are within a certain budget, because everybody that has asked me to do them has asked me to do them a certain style within a certain budget, and so I'm using usually the same sorts of materials within the same sort of layout, and I'm building them with the same kind of construction methods, and that's cool, especially when it's a client piece that you just want to get out the door, but at the same time you're just like, this is not challenging in any way for me. You build one dining table now. I think I made like 6 or 7, and you're just like, okay.
Also,
maybe
shout
someone
out
would like a different design at some point.
Shout out to Punjabi Music, who has figured this out too. They just hide one in
Well,
there.
I was gonna take it there.
I was gonna.
I'll let you go ahead. Go ahead.
I have a counterpoint, pun intended. For me, that creativity, especially when I'm doing music, it's the complete opposite of what Simran just said.
Interesting.
I have my base, and I know that if I'm doing riyaz, I'm going to be doing the same skills to start to warm up to get me in that zone. Similar to like for you, it's like that dining table process. You have it down to a science. I don't necessarily have riyaz down to a science, but I know what I'm doing. So for me, it's like the opposite. It's like that familiarity triggers that novelty in music.
Interesting.
Yeah, like even for like, so I relate both ways, honestly, because like I'm gonna like bring my hiking experience into this, right? Because like I don't like doing the same hike I've done, but there is an exception to that for like this one specific hike that's really easy in Canmore, like Upper Grassy Lakes, if anyone wants to do it. I've done that like 4 or 5 times within the last 2 years. It's really simple. And then like the rewarding, like you get the review, and I don't know what, like I always feel like I want to do that hike, but when it comes to other like bigger hikes, more challenging stuff, I don't want to do what I've already done. And I feel like a lot of people are like that, but I don't know, like it's like it's a little bit contradictory when I then look at that one. So like I'm not sure how to explain it. Maybe it's just like, okay,
because you accomplished something, now you don't want to rehab. It's like I already did this. Like I don't.
Yeah, for the main hikes, but I'm kind of like saying like with that other one, I just maybe think it's like because it's so rewarding to kind of just be up there for that, and it's relatively quick.
Because you like what you get once you get to the sort of top.
Yeah, with that one, yeah, exactly. But like then, yeah,
like your favorite restaurant, you want to go back and eat the same thing, even though they have so many things on the menu, because you really like that one thing they have.
Oh
right?
yeah, Padmanatties, ginger beef, and brown rice. That's a vegan restaurant.
Should have got them a sponsor
in Edmonton. Yeah, but then but the one like so then like when you think about as a producer, like you hear so many different artists who are making like different using the same sounds rather, or have a very similar vibe, and then some people don't produce like the same sounds, like they'll change it up on the next album or whatever. Yeah. So like, how does it kind of work for you?
Yeah, see, there's two. You just named 2 things there, right? So one is like, should I make what people want to hear, which in my opinion is garbage. Like I'll say it straight because that's my opinion. Or do I want to make something that fulfills me as an artist, and also makes me kind of feel like I'm contributing something to the music industry or giving something to the listeners that, in my opinion, is something beneficial to them. Right?
I do have a follow-up for you for that.
Sure, Simran. And all of you have been in my studio. All of you have been with me during my creative processes, in which your creative processes have all been involved. And even many viewers and listeners have been a part of that with us too, our avid viewers and listeners. So the thing is, for me, it's kind of like, what is my project? Is it something I'm doing for myself? Because if you guys really look at the stuff that I've released, it's been stuff I wanted to do, just my own thing. And now, doesn't that show you that I only want to do what I want to do? But does that pay the bills? No. Does that allow me to buy the studio and then pay off the studio? Not necessarily. Does that get me as a known artist? Am I now one of those music producers like Desi Crew, who everybody's going to come and book? No, because it's very niche. However, when somebody hears my sound and they want that, because that sound is already my vibe, I'm going to put my everything into that sound. If somebody came in, and there's been a couple of people who I've worked with, right? And they've really wanted that specific sound. Malik, you wanted that sound for Tarianal, right? It kind of just happened. And I kind of forced you to sing that instead of your Chakamagana you were attempting. But regardless, I kind of imposed that on you, but it worked, right? And so when somebody comes in with that vibe, who's vibes on my wavelength, likes a similar taste in music as me, and even people that challenge me to kind of do different things, but they're still on the same wavelength as me, that's what I like doing. When somebody comes in and says, "Paji, Dr. Zeus de gaane, Mitran the boot gana, udan di beat chahiye," I'm like, "So you mean skang di gidyan di rani di beat chahiye?" That simple Tolkien loop that every producer has either bootlegged or recreated the exact same way. Or using nothing but sag loops. Shout out to Bali Sagu. But the thing is, like, yo, man, like, if you listen to any of my stuff, it's all custom recorded, at least recently, right? It's all custom. There's artists in the studio. I'm getting things made for that project. That's where I get creative, because I can tell these artists, like, like, let's say I have a mandolin player. I'm like, Baji, I want a piece like this, and I'll kind of hum it out, or I'll kind of like do a fake mandolin sound with my mouth, and I'll be like, I want this, or I'll play it on my keyboard or something, right? And then they create it, and then it comes into the song. So that's what creativity is, because it came out of my brain. Then I kind of said it, and I got it out of another artist, which gives me a little bit more of I guess you can say, a high in the musical sense. Like, wow, like, you actually understood what I was hearing in my head, and you created that for me. On top of it, not just being a producer, I'm also the recording engineer in my own studio. I captured it, and it's exactly what I wanted. And that gets me going. And then I layer that up with the different sounds. The album gets made.
Yeah.
And I have a whole creative part of just mixing too.
That's like a
mixing.
multi-level satisfaction. Or
it's very multi-dimensional. It's not like I have this idea and then boom, I create the idea. Like, there's a task-based process to production as well, where I'm like, hey, I have sort of a process of, this is how I make a song, which we can talk about later, but I started going to certain steps. And then once I'm done those, then I'll step away, because that's like my task. My list is done. Then I'll step away and I'll just like reflect or think or just forget it. And then it'll pull me back when I'm ready. And sometimes it never pulls me back, as you guys can low-key joke with me about. But when it's something I'm truly vibing on, it pulls me back. And there's a lot of songs I have that are just need like polishing, like Simran says, just need the sanding, which gets tedious, right? So I just need to sand them out and I can put them out. But they're mostly done in the creative side of them, right? So the thing is, that's another thing, like I relate with Simran, is like, once I get that creative side out, I'm kind of like, hey, done. Now, if it's so epic that I feel like the world will benefit from it, then I'll put it out there. But if not, I'll just kind of wait. And it turns into like 15, 20 years of waiting. And then it's kind of,
well, you don't always have to like release your shit, but obviously I encourage the shit out of you to do it, because I thought your stuff was really good, and like maybe on more of a mainstream level, like it would have hit, but like what you're describing right now is like, you don't give a shit about that, really. Like, you're just trying to like,
I did at one point, but I don't really, it's not gonna, what's it gonna do for, look, man, like there's a whole side, when you're a true artist, in my opinion, like there's true artists that do things for money too, right? But when you're a true artist, you really want to make something you want to make, that you enjoy making while you're making it. And I can sit there and say, okay, Malik, come in the studio, tell me what you want me to make. But I may not like it. But then somehow I'm subjected to making it. And I don't have that love for it, right? And that's what I would throw a Gidyan the Irani loop into and be like, here it is.
It's finding that balance between the task and the creativity.
Yeah.
And if we're able to find like a mesh between them, we're able to create something that um, it's hard
Potentially
to
have
like it.
value.
Yeah, potentially to value to more than just ourselves.
So Pat, you touched on this idea of like, hey, the things you like, the things you vibe to. Where do you find the line between, like doing something different every time, differentiating yourself, and giving yourself an iconic sound or musical identity? Because that's a real challenge for me, is that I see things other people are doing online, and you're filled with so much of this inspiration, and oh man, like, oh, I want to build something like that. Oh, I want to build something like that. Oh, I want to build something like that. And my own design language, I feel at times gets drowned out by all this inspiration, right? It's all this exterior stuff. And
There's this old saying, which a lot of artists don't like to believe, but it ends up coming down to it, is don't reinvent the wheel, right? So here's the thing, like one artist that we all enjoy listening to, maybe definitely me and Kush do, is Money Sandhu. So shout out to Money if he's watching or listening. He's always tweeting me with certain funny things, but yeah, cool guy. Anyways, Money Sandhu has a signature sound. So when you listen to his music, or Dr. Zeus, anybody, right? You'll often find that, what are you listening to? Are you listening for one type of sound, or are you enjoying them as an artist, knowing that they created 2-3 different types of sounds? You find somebody like Sukhshinder Shinda, right? And there's a little Easter egg in that last name because that was already in our video. I'll leave it at that. But if you listen to Sukhshinder Shinda, he has 3 or 4 different types of sounds. He has that folk sound that is very popular with Jazzy B, like Nog. He has a romantic sound. He has a very sort of traditional, verging on sort of folk, but with sort of a modern urban beat sound. And then he has a totally urban sound. And so he has established 4 different sounds, and he recreates them in different ways and in different sort of emotions. Like some are sad, some are happy, of all those things. So different variations of all of the above. But then you have artists that only have 1 or 2 sounds, right? And how often are you going to listen to that? But they become so popular, those 1 or 2 sounds, that everybody starts doing that. Why are they doing that? Because they're doing that so they can also become popular, or they can also, sort of get that spotlight on them. And but there's artists like that, like you just keep listening to. They'll make a new song, but it sounds just like the last one, and you just like it because that's just the vibe you like. And the thing is, like, if you listen to it, that's why albums have phased out, guys, because an artist can't make an album that sounds different anymore for the most part. They can, but most of them don't. So Sukhshinder Shinda can put out an album tomorrow and it'll have 4 or 5 different sounds, but because people's, I believe, attention span has decreased so much, they won't listen to that. They want that one hit song, right?
Yeah.
And when's the last time you heard a full, like, insane album? And the first one that comes to mind for me is Back to Basics by Diljit Dosanjh. That album was off the charts.
100%.
And that producer, True School, and Chaos Productions was also on that for one song. That producer created like 3-4 different, has different sounds to them, right? So that's the trick. And so your question is, how do I differentiate and do that? I don't look at creating the same sound because I don't feel the same thing every time. And that's where I'm not a commercial artist. Like, I'm not a commercial artist. I'm not doing it for fame.
So you're trying to, like, that's what I mean, is just like, so like when someone sees one of my pieces, there's an aspect of it that I want them to immediately recognize that it's my piece, that it's my design. So like when I look at other iconic designers throughout history, these famous people, you look at the Ames couple, you look at George Nakashima, you look at James Krenoff, like all these names might be a little like strange to you guys.
No, I know the Japanese one, but yeah.
And in the world of woodworking and stuff like that, these are huge names, right? Green and Green, Stickley. When you think about like craftsman style furniture, those are all like very iconic designers, and like they came out with very iconic things. The cabinet on a stand was basically like revolutionized by James Krenoff. But the big thing is like those people, you see their designs, and there are characteristic elements of those designs that scream those persons' names right when you see them, and so they go down in history.
Well, the easiest one, like just to kind of interject for a second, the easiest one for people to recognize and understand what you're trying to say with is Apple, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what an Apple product is when you look at it.
You see an Apple product, you know what it is.
Yeah,
I mean, they do things differently with every
Tesla as
product.
well, right? Like similar examples.
Yeah.
I think it's I'm kind of curious.
Brand identity and brand recognition without sacrificing the creativity of your and revolutionary nature of your product, and also for it to be a challenge for you personally every time you come out with something. So it's like, to be competitive, you're trying to compete with yourself more than anything, but at the same time, you're trying to make sure that you're not, blowing yourself out of the water so much every time that you're not
you can't
indistinguishable,
stay at that level, right?
Yeah. There's a
that
few different
too.
ways to do that. Like there's some tacky ways to do it, like hearing Desi Crew in every song you produce, or like whatever, it is what it is, right? That's just my opinion. Some people might not care. But like, available on iTunes. You knew that was from Movie Box label on YouTube. To certain color schemes, like the brand Tiffany, the jewelry maker, they have that specific Tiffany greenish blue color. Whereas Coca-Cola always uses red with white, right? So a lot of designers, like I've just stumbled on this, not intentionally. Just last few years, I've been like buying different eyeglasses, like eyewear, and somehow I've been sort of gravitating towards Japanese designers, and so they have a very unique way of marking their brand. It's usually on the inside of the glass, spectacles or glasses, where nobody else can see it. Only you as the wearer can see them. And I find a lot of color selection can define your brand. Certain sounds, or for Sukshinder Shinda, like my sort of inspiration for audio is that it's his engineer, right? He has Tom Lowry. He used to go with Pete Ware and these type of engineers from the UK. You can hear his toll. Like I mentioned this before, it sounds like the thunder is coming out of the skies. Like his toll sounds insane. And that sound is his brand now, right? Like if you listen to any old, like go back in the past, listen to a Tiger Style song, you'll know it's him. Dr. Zeus, you know it's him, right? And these, but the thing is, they're making kind of different things.
PBN, you'll know it's, oh wait, no, never mind.
So I'm pretty curious because like I want to like Malik, you said at the start you don't think you're a creative guy, but like how does this process, like how we're just talking about like people creating like a brand or whatever, like did you ever view yourself like because you were a Bhangra performer and you even just did it like this last weekend, right? Like retired technically, but you did that game for a long while, right? With your boys and the friends, but you also were like a choreographing like kind of those dances as well.
Yeah.
So like that's creative, my friend. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, did you ever kind of see, or like, how did you kind of view yourself creatively in that sense? Like, did you have to like evolve to like kind of keep your sanity, or like how did it work for you?
Yeah, I think we talked about this already a little bit. It's that novelty piece as well. So it's finding the balance between the familiarity of whatever it is. So if it's a familiarity of like the theory of Bhangra versus how can I add in elements of different dance to this? How can I add a heel click into this Chumar set that I'm doing and adding weird stuff like that? Or how can I take the music that we're dancing to and speed it up to a pace that is difficult for people to comprehend, but it looks amazing when we're dancing with our grace. So evolution, and again, kind of like the balance between familiarity and novelty is kind of how my creativity works, but also in the same sense, my creativity isn't very linear. So for me, my creativity will come in bursts. If I want to do music, or if I want to do dance, or if I want to write a song, I can't force myself, no matter how hard I try, no matter how many mood lights I put on, or no matter how many times I do the same basic scales on the harmonium. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But when it does happen, it's like a quick burst and then it shuts off completely. Yeah. So it for me, that's why I say I don't really have a creative process, because it's very sporadic.
Yeah. So then I guess I think this will kind of be maybe like the last question for everyone, maybe like a two-part question. So you might not have a creative process, but do you then, like, does everyone kind of here consider themselves a creative? Like I do.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
like we
that's
talked about right at the start, there's different ways to look at creativity. So woodworking is Simran's creativity, music is my creativity, making memes is both mine and Kush's
But do you
creativity.
consider
Yeah,
yourself a
I would.
creativity, like, or creative rather? Like, because like we might have this definition, but like, do we in our eyes see us as like being part of that definition? That's more so what I'm kind of like wondering.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll jump in just so you guys can, think about it for a second. Like, I don't consider myself always being creative,
yeah,
but
it feels so
like
pretentious.
sometimes it's just like there's a process of tasks that I know how to do, and I know how to do them well, and I have attention to detail in these tasks. But I had a guy in the studio maybe a little while back who just came in, and he always comes in and records his vocals at my studio, right? All good. He comes in and I'm like, look, I need you to maybe try this with your vocals. Do this and do one like this and like this. And then he's like, wow, you're so creative. How did you think of that? And I didn't even realize I was doing that. And so like you have to sort of like, I don't know, like how to explain. I think the people that are creative don't really have this little light that goes on saying, oh, I'm creative now. No, it just happens and it just pulls you in. It's like when you're swimming or something and the wave comes in, just pulls you in. That's kind of how it is.
It's like somebody declaring themselves a genius. It wouldn't make sense, right? Like other people would be like, oh yeah, that guy's brilliant or something.
So like, here's the thing.
To a house or like I see a coffee table somewhere, or I see something that resembles the form of something I like.
Yeah.
And I'll take a picture of it or something like that. We were in Phoenix for a buddy stag, and they had this weird antique sort of hutch thing, this little bar in the corner of the house. And I just started whipping out my notebook. I didn't even realize what I was doing until they kind of just like, everybody else just sort of stopped and was just like, what the hell, man? And I was like, yo, just chill, bro. This thing has like really nice, like it had nice dimensions. It had a nice scale to it. And it caught my eye. And it got my juices flowing in a weird way where I was just like, I need to do this right now.
And personally, like Malik, you probably remember this. There was a song, a Bollywood song that I don't listen to a lot. Like I have nothing against Bollywood songs, but I find them too cheesy for me. However, there was one. Remember that one day we're just driving and I wouldn't stop listening to it, and it was Ishq Mein Ruswa from Dangerous Ishq.
Bro, I remember that song.
Because you were there too.
I've been playing for a whole month.
Because first of all, I'm a tabla player, right? So it has a big tabla piece in there. But more so than that, just like that song captured me, and I was like, wow, and I was lost in it. Yeah. And I wanted to make it, and I wanted it to be performing in my studio so I can add different things to it, and it just started happening.
That's how I feel sometimes with like somebody will put up a picture on like Pinterest and they'll be like, oh my God.
I know. Yeah.
And that's exactly it. That's the fire. Like it literally, it's like getting hit by lightning. And then and then I'm done for like 3 days, 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
That's it. And
I think it's partial skill. Like when you have the skill to either create what you're hearing or seeing or even tasting and maybe make it better or modify it. I think that just is an automatic, like, yo, like I could do this too, but I would do it this way or something like that. Or you're just totally enjoying it. And that inspires you to make things that are, I guess, in that genre or that spectrum of things. Right. So anyways, that was just my little rant.
Yeah. I feel like there's no real summary in this like conversation where I can be like, yeah, we all agreed like this is this. Like what we've kind of like stumbled upon like through this conversation is that it's like it's very diverse and like how things work for everyone, and really it's just kind of individually like what works for you. Like,
but can I jump in and maybe ask something and see if everybody's on the same page? It'll be kind of like a little on the spot thing. But like here's the thing. When your creativity is going, like you're in that zone, what does it take to throw you out of that? So for me, it could be any disturbance. Anybody comes into my brain or overtakes my thoughts, interjects, a phone call, my mom saying something, I don't know, right?
Yeah.
Anything. And that's over. It's done. It's over. Like you wake up from a dream until you can get in that zone again, which is not always the same the second time around, third time, fourth time
it's
around.
like the same thing for me. It's like when I'm in the zone, I'm super focused. Like you, you came the other day. You were talking to me like as I was in here then gaming out or whatever. You're like saying something to me, but I was just like looking at you, and you remember, right? You were trying to tell me something the other day, but I was so in the zone I couldn't like even respond to you. Like
I think you guys have seen me
it.
like that, especially when I'm DJing or have been DJing, right? Like,
Yeah.
"Okay, get out of here! Like, just go. I just do this." I'm
Yeah,
like,
I knew the signs because you had your headphones on. At that point, I'm like, okay, he's doing this. I'm not gonna.
a lot of people don't realize that when the headphones are on, you don't talk.
Yeah, like just maybe when he has one off, I'll see if I need to say anything to him.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's different. So and I think that goes to the sporadic nature of my creative process. I know that it's going to be a short window. If it gets interrupted, I'm able to get right back on track to what it is. So because I know it's going to end eventually, and it's kind of ending on my own terms. So
you probably create chapters to it, right? Because I can also do that.
But for me, it's like if I get interrupted by somebody having a conversation, or if there's a phone call, or if we go on a drive to Tim Hortons as we're creating a song, we come back.
That's different. That's different.
Yeah, but I get right back on the horse really quickly. But I think that's just because my window of creativity is a lot smaller than.
But with Malik, like, okay, if we were working on Thought and All, how many times did we take breaks to go eat or go to Tim's or whatever, right? The thing is, you're still with the same people, and you're still talking about.
You're still within that creative.
Right.
But even for me though, if it's outside that creative window, I still get back to it. So that's just me though.
For me, it's emotional turmoil. If there's like, dude, if I check my phone and the Oilers did something stupid, oh man. Like this
don't check your phone.
Really,
don't check your phone.
Don't go into the specifics of today, okay?
How are you building stuff today? Is all I'm going to say. Oh yeah,
I deleted Twitter, and like at first thing in the morning when I heard it was going on, my friends were texting me what was up, and I put them on mute, and I almost deleted WhatsApp. And I've been in a field of blissful ignorance. Part of it today was just like, okay, I've already made a promise that I'm going to deliver this thing tomorrow. And that, and what remains is really technically pretty mindless work. I had to fit the drawers. I got the drawer slides in, and then I had to attach the mounting brackets on the back. And I had to apply a second coat of finish, which I'm doing right now. So all this stuff is relatively like, I'm not engineering anything. I'm not doing a deep,
yeah, you're winding it down, sort of.
I'm winding down, right? And then so and at the same time, my creative mind is somewhere else. This is that checklist mind. My creative mind is like, I'm thinking about building a shed greenhouse. I'm thinking about renovating a garage for some godforsaken reason. I'm thinking about built-ins in the pantry. I'm thinking about built-ins in my parents' bedroom. I'm thinking about redoing my closet, and I'm thinking about pull-out drawers in IKEA cabinets. That's my top. Oh, and also an irrigation system in the backyard. French drain in the driveway. Like I could pace the house, and there's shit that just comes up constantly. And that's the kind of stuff that'll keep me up at night. But if I get thrown off, and that's part of the evil of having.
You know what you got to do, man? You got to find somebody who can put their skill and mix it with your thoughts and ideas and get them to work.
That's what I need. If I could just and it's not even the woodworking that's the part that like juices me up. If I never build anything ever again, I'll be okay with that. If I can design for the rest of my life, oh my God. Like that would be great. Because I know the thing I'm weakest at is the woodworking, believe it or not.
Yeah.
The part that I'm strongest at is the design stuff.
You know what you could do, man, to give yourself a brand on your wood?
What?
You can go ahead and lick like maple syrup or something, and then just lick your finished design and leave like a tongue mark with some sort of, I don't know. Just
brand it with literally like a brand, like smolder it in like your initials or something.
I gotta get that done actually. I gotta order one in.
That'd be cool. But okay, so I'm gonna wrap it up here with this last question, kind of for you guys here. Just keep it as brief as you can, because like this can go like a long way. But like, okay, so we kind of shared the processes and how our creativity works. What would you kind of recommend to somebody who is like in a situation where they're exploring the creativity, like what kind of advice would you give that person who is unsure what to do or wants to kind of find out for themselves where to go? And remember, let's not go too crazy with it, but
yeah, I have something, and we've talked about it, and it's come up, but we haven't really explicitly talked about it. It's setting yourself up for success, whatever that environment is, exploring what those different environments are, seeing like, does this type of lighting or this room in my house or this certain place where I sit trigger certain things. So if it's a creative process or whatever it is, it's figuring out. Like Simran knows what works and what doesn't work for him. So it's kind of trial and error, really. You can't put a formula to creativity.
I think for me, it's make sure that if you need to understand what kind of creative person you are and how you do work, right? So I had to understand that as someone that lived away from home and someone that had to be a self-motivator while at school because, mommy and daddy weren't there yelling at me to, go do something or whatever. And when that creative sort of spark hit me, I needed to be prepared for it. Otherwise, I was either overcome by it and overwhelmed by it, or it was so fleeting that it passed me by. So I learned to carry a pen and paper with me wherever I went, so that I would have the resources available that whenever something, like that little lightning bolt moment hit, I'd be able to take advantage of it. Whether I was, and it's happened multiple times where I've literally pulled over on the side of the road. Sometimes that's like, I have long drives to and from home. I live outside the city a little bit. And I'll literally pull over to the side of the road and sketch out the thing that was in my head. Yeah. Because as soon as I go to check my phone, or like somebody gives me or I walk into the house and somebody's talking to me, that idea is gone.
Yeah.
And having that right when I need it is perfect. And so I'm making lists. I'm drawing things out. I'm sketching ideas. Even if I can just put down the idea as a point note, like, oh, I don't know.
Something that triggers you to
walnut coffee table. I'll put that down, like walnut coffee table. And
so essentially it's like you got to get, like, you're recommending, like, if somebody has like a problem with the creativity, just try to get it down somewhere so that they can go back to it and kind of act on it. So anyways, so put I guess that question to you now.
Well, there's a few different dimensions to it, but mainly for me, it's like, have some time, like put some time aside, even if you don't do anything in that time. Okay, just sort of create some time, whether it's weekly, whether it's daily, whether it's, I don't know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursdays, whatever. Create a little bit of time where you can actually sit down and spend that time uninterrupted. And then those that are around you, just let them know, like, yo, at this time, if it's an emergency, phone me or come down and grab me. Otherwise, don't bug me. And, Simran, I think your point goes with what I'm about to say. When I used to drive around and think about little ideas and stuff, because I'm driving, I couldn't pull over or anything. So I would just like voice record it.
Voice notes, yeah.
Either hum it out or talk about it or just describe it to myself. Often I'd get carried away and not listen to them again. But and sometimes I listen back and be like, what the heck was I thinking, right? But if you don't do anything else in that time you have allocated, maybe just listen to that or look at your sketches and pick something and just do it and see how it is. Just try it. That's my.
Oftentimes, I will make personal projects that involve the construction or finishing methods of things that I want to potentially offer commercially or relatively commercially. So that finishing process that I tried out on that kitchen island, that was so laborious. The reason why I thought it would be an easy time is because I tried it on a much, much smaller scale on a smaller project. It was a coffee table that I actually have up on sale on the website, and it's on Insta. Hit me up if you guys want to check that out. But I was like, this isn't too bad. And then I tried it on a much, much larger project, and I was like, oh my God, I was so wrong. But that's so important.
It's experience, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and because it's very low risk. The whole thing was made out of trash, and like to your point, Pat, is like that's part of because everything can be abstract in your head, and in that perfect world, it's great. And I know
find a way to organize your thoughts, and then create a time to take those thoughts that are organized.
And put things out there. Don't be afraid to screw up. Just if it's verbal diarrhea, let it be that. Or if you just want to nail a few things together, do that. Or if you just want to see how something sounds, try it out.
Yeah.
And it could lead to something else later on. It could that could be a point source for further inspiration. Is just get started, get going.
Kush, what about you?
So I'll summarize kind of what you guys were just saying. Like Malik was saying, figure out what works for you really, and then in that it's okay, you have to do trial and error, different experiences, and just experiment really. And then Simran and even Patwant, they talked about putting your ideas out there for yourself and whatever methodology that is, a notebook, voice notes, your journal, your diary, whatever, right? And then kind of so you can come back to that point and remember your original inspiration, and then also then setting the time to actually do these things rather than just saying it. Just give yourself that ability to actually carry it out. And then what I wanted to add is those ideas you have, don't let anyone really pull you away from those ideas. You are intrigued by those ideas because you find importance and value in them. A lot of the time, people will stop doing something because their friends or different people who hear it will say, "Oh, this sucks" or whatever. And I really don't think that's the way to go. If you really feel strongly about something or have passion, just put it out there, go with it. And at the end of the day, it's your fulfillment. You're not fulfilling other people's needs or wants or their creative side. You're fulfilling yourselves. So with that kind of said, I think we're going to wrap up here, and I'm going to throw it over to Malik.
Yeah, let us know in the comments below what your creative process is. If this kind of triggered something for you, let us know. Again, we're always open to...
Even if you try something different, let us know. Maybe we can do something different too.
Exactly. We're always open to different topics, different ideas. So if you have anything that you want to hear us talk about, let us know in the comments below. Or you can send us a direct message on Twitter and Instagram at Pardesi_Beats. Make sure you tell your friends about Pardesi Beats Unplugged. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So that's the episode for today. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in. Bye.